This story begins with little Lejla, who one day was walking home when she was suddenly captured and locked inside a glass box, where she was held for many years. But one day, she managed to escape from her captor and make it back home. The story then jumps ahead to show that Lejla is now an adult, a successful criminologist deeply committed to helping people who have gone through the same trauma she did. She now gives lectures where she provides a detailed analysis of how captors think and how they study their victims. Through these talks, she tries to share everything she learned about her own abductor during the years she was held captive. One day after one of her lectures, she receives a call from her adoptive father who tells her that his wife, Lejla's adoptive mother, has passed away. This news forces Lejla to return to her hometown to be with her stepfather during this difficult time. But going back is emotionally complicated for her, since it's the place where all her painful memories began. Still, she knows she has to go. When Lejla finally arrives in the town, she finds her stepfather doing a bit of sewing. He offers her coffee and bread and welcomes her back home. Lejla notices an old photograph of herself as a child and asks him why he hasn't taken those photos down, since they bring back extremely painful memories. Her stepfather, named Walter, tells her to remember that he was once a police officer, now retired, and that he never managed to catch the monster who took her. That same day, Walter invites Lejla to go fishing at the river, a favorite activity they used to do together when she lived there. During their time by the river, he tells her that soon the river will disappear because a mining project's about to begin nearby. The next morning, while visiting a local bakery, Lejla runs into a guy named Jim, who has known her since she was a little girl. He's clearly a bit unhinged and mockingly calls her the girl from the box, in reference to her childhood ordeal. Lejla doesn't take offense, though. It's the kind of joking she's used to from people in the town. Back at home, everything is ready for the funeral of her adoptive mother. At the service, we meet Tomas, who is now the town's police chief and also Walter's brother. There's also Louis, a childhood friend of Lejla's. Louis is the mother of a young girl named Alicia and the wife of the man in charge of the new mining project. She confides in Lejla that people in the town have been harassing her and saying awful things to her in the streets because they're strongly opposed to the mine. The situation has her incredibly stressed. Before leaving, she asks Lejla to stop by her house soon, as she's going on a trip, plans to leave Alicia in her mother's care. She wants a proper chance to say goodbye. The next morning, Lejla goes to Louis' house. As she walks in, she hears loud music playing. She searches through the rooms, and when she opens the bathroom door, she finds Louis dead in the bathtub. It appears to be a suicide. Lejla immediately calls for help, and soon Walter, the police, and Louis's mother arrive. Louis's mother begs to see her daughter, but the authorities won't let her in. That's when Lejla realizes that little Alicia isn't with her grandmother. Suddenly, a wave of anxiety crashes over Lejla as her memories come flooding back, and she begins to fear that Alicia might now be in the same kind of danger she once was. A search operation begins for the missing girl, and soon her father, Saeed, who was also Louis's husband, arrives. The police find Alicia's clothes at the construction site of the mine and immediately suspect that her disappearance is linked to Saeed, since he owns the mine and oversees its development. He is arrested while the search for Alicia continues. Later, in a chilling scene, we see that Alicia is actually being held captive inside the same glass dome where Lejla had once been imprisoned. It seems the nightmare is repeating itself. During Saeed's interrogation, the police ask him how things were between him and his wife, since he is now the prime suspect. Said insists that everything was fine between them. However, the officer tells him that's not true. There are reports indicating that Louis had filed for divorce shortly before her death due to issues in their marriage. This new information adds weight to the theory that Saeed might be responsible. Meanwhile, Lejla is personally investigating Alicia's disappearance. She's taken over the case, driven by the painful memories it brings back from her own past. She goes to the mine where Alicia's clothes were found, accompanied by her stepfather, Walter, who still has connections and access thanks to his past as a police officer. There, someone informs them that Alicia had a friendship with one of the construction workers at the mine. Lejla and Walter go to question him to understand the nature of that relationship, especially because some people had seen him taking photos and videos of Alicia. The man is clearly nervous, but explains that he told Alicia he had a daughter around her age and let the girls communicate using his phone. He shows them WhatsApp messages and videos the two girls had shared, funny clips and friendly exchanges. But in one of the videos, Lejla spots a suspicious man in a car parked near Alicia's house. She takes a screenshot of the video for further investigation. When she brings this information to the police, the officer scolds her, saying they shouldn't be handling the case on their own and need to leave it to the authorities. He also informs her that the autopsy revealed Louis was murdered, not a suicide as originally thought. Given the troubled relationship and the divorce request, Saeed is now considered the main suspect in both the murder and the kidnapping. Lejla continues to experience disturbing flashbacks of her past. She reveals that she never saw her captor's face and that he used to cut her hair. While she was imprisoned, she discovered that other girls had also been there before her. She found some drawings left behind by those previous victims. In one key scene, Lejla recalls how, during her own police interview, she used to refer to her captor as the team because that's what it sounded like when he entered the room to visit her. Tomas, the lead police officer, can no longer bear the guilt and ends up confessing to Walter and Lejla that he was having an affair with Louis. That's why he knows things weren't going well between her and Saeed. Walter tells him he needs to include this in the report, but Tomas insists it's unnecessary and just asks them to keep his secret. He says it has nothing to do with the case and that he's not part of the actual investigation, so there's no need to reveal it. Later, Alicia's grandmother receives a video showing Alicia fast asleep. She takes it to the police and they realize that somehow the captor is trying to communicate with them. The family takes this as a sign of hope since it shows that Alicia is still alive and seemingly unharmed. Because of this video, Saeed is released from jail. It becomes clear that the kidnapper is still out there. After all, how could Saeed have sent the video while he was locked up? However, the police warn him that the kidnapping might be connected to the mining project, that this could be someone trying to send a message or get revenge, since many people in the town want the mine shut down and his family gone. Shortly after, the authorities announce that the mine operations will be paused due to the ongoing investigation. This news brings joy to many in the town, but despite the halt, some angry townspeople show up at Saeed's house and demand that he and his family leave for good. They're convinced that once Alicia is found, the mining will resume, and they don't want that. They beat Saeed up and make it very clear that he's no longer welcome there. Later, Saeed finds a book where someone had written a note to Louis before she died, telling her they loved her. This makes him realize she had a lover before her death. He goes straight to the police, and Tomas is stunned when he hears what Saeed found. Said urges him to find Louis's lover, believing that person could be connected to Alicia's disappearance. Tomas promises to look into it, despite knowing full well that he is the lover and that he'll never confess. Meanwhile, Lejla talks to the wife of Ade, a well-known man in town. She tells Lejla that Ade recently received a large sum of money and she's worried about where it came from. They go to confront him, and when they find him drunk, he confesses that he was paid $35,000 to drill a hole into a pipe at the mine. He explains the money offer came through an encrypted email, which turns out to be the same email account used to send the video of Alicia asleep. That means the person who paid aid to sabotage the mine is the same person who kidnapped Alicia, confirming a major connection in the case. During all this, Lejla temporarily takes care of Isla, Ade's daughter, while her parents deal with the police. While Isla is drawing, she says something strange. She tells Lejla that someone named Eki came to visit her, drew her some beautiful pictures, and even climbed in through the window. Lejla is stunned. She can't believe that after all these years, Eki, the man who once kidnapped her, might have returned and even entered her home. She even shows Lejla a drawing where Alicia appears surrounded by shards of glass. It's now clear that the same captor is behind everything. With Lejla disturbed by all of this, it's time to take action and launch a full investigation focused on her old captor and the other girls who went missing before her, where they were abducted, and specific details Lejla remembered from when she was held captive. They put together a full profile and realized that all the girls had similar traits: long, dark hair. This could explain why Isla, Ade's daughter, wasn't taken. She's blonde and younger and doesn't fit the captor's pattern. Lejla takes all of this information to the police. Once again, she's scolded for getting too involved in the case. Still, they thank her for the research, admitting that it could actually be helpful. During that visit, the officer also reveals that the little girl, Isla, said something else. She mentioned that the man who visited her, claiming to be Eki, had a tattoo on his arm, a large, bright red flower. Soon after, the police receive an audio message of Alicia's voice, pleading with her parents to come save her. This time, there's more information embedded in the recording. They're able to trace the exact location it was sent from, a home belonging to an 87-year-old woman. It turns out she once had a son who spent time in a psychiatric hospital, but was recently released after being declared rehabilitated. At the same time, we see Lejla go on a date with a guy she met in town, named Martin. He invites her to his place, and she agrees, hoping to clear her mind and take a break from all the stress surrounding the case. While there, they start talking about her kidnapping, and it becomes clear that Martin has a deep interest in her story. During their conversation, Lejla recounts what it was like being held captive, but she admits she doesn't think the person who visited Isla could be the same man who kidnapped her. Then Martin shares a strange but intriguing theory. Maybe the person who visited Isla isn't the real Eki at all. Maybe he's just a copycat, trying to reenact what the original abductor did. Just then, Lejla gets a phone call from Walter, who tells her they found an address with solid evidence that the captor was there recently. But before she can leave, she starts to feel dizzy. Martin's drinks have clearly affected her. Through her haze, she notices a scar on Martin's arm. It looks like a flower. It hits her. Maybe little Isla mistook that scar for a tattoo. It's becoming clear. Martin is likely a copycat of the original abductor Eki. He visited Isla, and now he may be trying to choose his own victims. Lejla is extremely dizzy and eventually collapses to the floor. As Martin carries her to a bed, he starts preparing something in his car, but Lejla forces herself to throw up, trying to get rid of whatever substance he gave her. She manages to stumble out of the large house and flees into the woods. Martin chases after her, searching everywhere, but she escapes. Thankfully, a car shows up. It's Walter, her stepfather, who rescues her, takes her to the hospital, and reports everything to the police. Now they finally have a solid lead on Martin and can start a full search for him. While recovering at home, Lejla gets a call from Said, Alicia's father. He asks her once again if she believes that the man who kidnapped her is the same one who has Alicia. Drowsy from her medication, Lejla replies no. She says this isn't the real Eki, and Alicia must be somewhere else. Said is shaken by this and goes to see her in person, demanding she tell him the same thing face to face. He wants to push the police harder and make sure they keep searching for his daughter without giving up. But Lejla doesn't even remember the phone call. She was too sedated. This sends Said into a spiral of frustration, feeling helpless and powerless. Lejla later goes looking for him to apologize for what she said, but just then, news breaks. At the mining site, they found a body that died in a brutal way. It appears to be Martin, who was murdered. The lead detective arrives and is furious with everyone. He can't believe the entire police force had been looking for Martin, yet someone managed to kill him so easily. Now that he's dead, they may never find out where Alicia is. Things within the police department spiral out of control. Tomas, the officer leading the investigation, has no idea what to do anymore. Walter offers to come out of retirement just for this case to restore order. When he returns to the force, the team welcomes him warmly, which makes Thomas, his brother, jealous. Until now, Thomas had been in charge, and suddenly he's been sidelined. Angry, he storms out of the station and heads to a bar. After a few too many drinks, Thomas gets drunk and starts saying nonsense. That's when Said, Alicia's father, walks in, also trying to drown his sorrows. Thomas sees him and invites him for a drink, but Said refuses. He doesn't trust the officer and thinks he's been wasting everyone's time. Offended, Thomas blurts out that he was having an affair with Said's late wife. Enraged, Said punches him immediately, and other patrons step in to break up the fight. Someone calls Walter, who shows up to drag Thomas out and stop him from embarrassing himself further. Back at Thomas's house, Walter helps him sober up. As they talk and reflect on the past, Walter tells him to calm down and get some rest. Meanwhile, Lejla uncovers something unexpected. She realizes that years ago, Thomas stayed at the same hotel where she and her mother used to go. This leads her to suspect that Thomas might somehow be connected to her own abduction. She also finds an old photo of Thomas and Walter as kids, and she notices something chilling. Thomas's mother had hair exactly like all the missing girls, including herself. She goes to the hotel and asks the staff to search through their records for Thomas's name, just to confirm her suspicion. And yes, it's true. Thomas stayed there. The next morning, Lejla shows up at Thomas's house under the pretense of looking for Walter. While there, she uses the opportunity to ask Thomas directly why he stayed at that hotel. Thomas simply replies that it was a coincidence. Then he gets a phone call, and while he's distracted, Lejla takes the chance to snoop around the house. She spots Lewis's old phone, grabs it, and runs out. Back home, she tries to call Said, but can't reach him, so she leaves him a voicemail saying not to involve the police and that she has Lewis's phone. Suddenly, Thomas shows up at her house and begins searching for her. Someone grabs her and injects something into her neck. She wakes up inside a glass dome, the same kind she was trapped in years ago. Alicia is there too, but this time, their captor doesn't realize that Lejla has Louis' phone hidden on her. With the last bit of battery left, she calls Walter and tells him to help. She knows now that Thomas is the captor. Back at the police station, Said tells Thomas that Lejla left him a message saying she had Louis' phone. Tomas immediately panics and bolts out of the station. At the dome, the captor arrives. Lejla begins talking to him gently, saying he doesn't need to be alone, that she's there to help him. She promises not to expose him and says she wants to help him heal from whatever trauma turned him into this person. Suddenly, the captor switches on the lights and removes his mask. It's Walter, her stepfather. stepfather. Lejla is in total shock. Walter turns to Alicia and tells her she can leave, that he'll take her back home like he promised. He cuts her hair, supposedly as part of the deal, and tells her not to move or speak to Lejla if she wants to go free. He says he'll be back soon. Lejla desperately tries to convince Alicia that it's a lie, that he's not going to let her go, and she needs to run now. Just then, Walter returns and begins strangling the poor girl with his bare hands. Meanwhile, Thomas arrives at Lejla's house and finds a police officer unconscious on the floor. He immediately calls for backup. Back at the dome, Lejla starts slamming her own head against the wall, trying to emotionally manipulate Walter, who deeply cares for her, into stopping. Walter yells at her to stop, which gives Thomas the clue he needs to find the hidden basement in the house. He discovers Alicia, Lejla, and Walter, all in the middle of the horrifying scene. Thomas points a gun at Walter, devastated to find out the truth about his own brother. Then a gunshot is heard. The police arrive. Lejla and Alicia are rescued alive. Time passes. Alicia later visits Walter in prison. All she wants is to know where the other girls are, the ones who came before her, because they deserve to go home to their families too. Walter doesn't answer. Instead, he reminds her of the beautiful moments they spent by the river, fishing, how he always thought of that river as his own special place. That gives Lejla a clue. She immediately leaves the prison, and a full search operation is launched at the river. Sure enough, deep in the water, they find the bodies of all the girls Walter had murdered in the past, submerged and hidden for years.